calls. We have Mark in Australia. Pronouns are he, him. You say the scientific method is the best pathway to truth. He disagrees, or at least says that consciousness reveals truth more reliably than local or logical methods. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. That's another call this show. Yeah.
I'm sorry? Yeah, I can hear you. You're a little soft, but what's on your mind?
I just thought I'd push back against this idea that the scientific method is the best pathway to truth. It may well be, but I wonder if it's a bit presumptuous. I mean, what is meant by truth? Do you have a definition of truth that I can to clarify?
I have a definition of truth that you. Okay, so I like to distinguish truth, and Mike may push back on me on this, and this is great, but I have a definition of truth that we have two things. We have reality and we have truth. And reality is all that stuff out there, squiggles and lines and atoms and stuff we can't see and don't understand. All that stuff is reality. That gets into our brains via our senses, via our ears, our eyes, blah, blah, blah. It's converted into signals which our brain picks up. And we as a species have a shared reality based on that interpretation that goes to our brain. And that shared reality is what we have as truth. So we agree that we're talking via the internet or over vast distances. We agree we're both human beings. We're probably both wearing clothes. I'm not sure about you. I certainly am. We can both read words in a common language. We can learn new languages. This is all a shared reality. And that is a truth. And we know that's a truth. We've got standards of that being a truth. So we can have a difference between reality out there, which is just squiggles and lines and atoms and stuff, and our shared reality. And different species have different shared truths. So dogs have different truths to us. Cats have different truths to dogs and us. Lions have different truths, although technically cats again. So we all have this shared truth. And that's what I consider truth to be. This shared reality that we as a species have and can agree upon.
If I understand that correctly, I was very pleased to hear you saying what you were saying, because I thought you were in agreement with me. But I don't think we do have that shared reality. I think we have different realities that we don't realise are as different as they are, because we do have a common language. The language is very artificial. It's a creation, it's an artifact of civilization. And we have common words, but we do not have common meanings, because you understand words differently than I do, because of all the different connotations that you associate them with. And therefore, when I'm speaking and making a clear sentence and three people in the room hear what I say, we have three slightly different interpretations that are all equally justified from the perspective of those three different people. So I think truth is contained entirely as a linguistic artifact, and that, rather than quite the way you put it.
But we can discuss that and agree upon that. Do you not agree? It's not a case that we just have completely wild interpretations of those things. You might mention a table to somebody. There may be three people in a room and you mention table. Now, those people will interpret that slightly differently. I'll think of the table I've got in my living room. Somebody else might think of a great grandiose table in a stately home. Somebody else might think of a small garden table. So we are interpreting those things differently, but we still have the common understanding of what a table is.
Indeed, but when you are using abstract concepts and words that don't have a very solid foundation, things like justice or love, or there's millions of words that have a very nebulous sort of meaning. Yet, nevertheless, in the courtroom, sales people, advertisers, they use ambiguous words and phrases. The whole intention is to create a sort of a sense of what they're getting at. But I do want to be talking about religion and about the legitimacy of the notion that the scientific method is the best pathway to truth. I want to just offer a counter argument to that and say, well, the scientific method relies on experimentation, on language, on experience, and as you said, different animals have different experiences of those chaotic atoms swirling around in the universe. So what I'm saying to you is that these different interpretations are, given that you agree with these different interpretations of different animals, and perhaps you agree with me that different people will have to a certain degree, that clouds things up greatly and undermines the scientific method to a certain extent with regard when you compare it to direct experience, when you compare it to consciousness per se, because you can't start understanding the arguments of any language or any argument of any person until you have an experience so you can interpret the meanings of the words that they are using. Am I talking too long?
No, I was just trying to hear you. It's a little fuzzy on my end. I don't know if Richard, go ahead. If you, I don't.
I was just I'll go on to give you a chance to speak in a second, Mike. I've been talking over you quite a lot.
No.
We have this shared experience, and when we're talking about religion, that's a separate. That's my area of study, by the way. Religion and philosophy and ethics is what I study at university. And when we're talking about those things, there are different ways to talk about those. So I'm not sure if I'm kind of slightly in agreement with you here, because if we're talking about religion from a kind of the idea of theology, there's a certain way to talk about that, which people outside of that may not quite understand or may not quite grasp, because it's a specialized area. Or if we're talking about philosophy, people there are specialized words which don't have common meanings that the common usage means. So we do have different areas, but when we're talking about religion specifically, it depends entirely about what aspects you're speaking about. If I'm having a conversation, if somebody's talking to me and trying to prove religion, and they're doing it through the kind of idea of theological truths or theological ideas, then I'm going to have an entirely different conversation with those people than I am with somebody who's going to talk about, say, for example, someone from Islam, who will often talk about scientific evidence backing up their book. So that's going to be an entirely different conversation. They're entirely different areas. So, of course, in those areas, we're going to have different ideas, and things are going to be interpreted differently depending on your level of expertise in that particular area. But we still have this common understanding that we're working from, and these are specialities on top of that common understanding.
So we don't have a common understanding when it comes to the religious folk versus the non-religious folk, or the atheist versus the theist. There's a very deep divide between those two camps, and I'm interested in that divide, and I would rather it didn't exist, and I would rather do something to make it go away than to simply take sides and throw stones.
I'm sorry, I missed that. I didn't quite catch that. Do you mind repeating that?
It's probably my fault for talking too fast. Look, I'll try and I'm saying that I'm concerned about the fact that there is a divide between the religious and the non-religious, between the theists and the non-theists. And rather than taking a side or being on a side and going hard at arguing with the other side of how silly they are or how wrong they are, I'd rather get rid of that divide entirely. And that's
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Mark,
I agree with that. I'm married to a theist. I'm married to a theist, and the best man of my wedding was a theist from an entirely different religion to what my wife is. So I agree that we should. I don't want to fight with theists.
Yeah, my parents are theists. Like, people I know are theists. I don't hate theists or there's divide between certain types of people, obviously, that how they engage. I think that's a testament to people. It's not a testament to one side or the other. But regardless, the divide that I care about is we have a proposition, right? X is true. Okay. Why is it true? What's the method for it? Did you care about falsifying it? Like, we have a rigorous method here. Why are we sidestepping it in favor of some conceptual notion of a method that you can't even demonstrate, right? Those are things I care about, because it's really easy for me to disguise my methodology with fucking nothing, right? For it to just be equivalent with nothing, and then be like, yeah, but I don't know if we're we're coming from different backgrounds. No, if it's empirical and if it's in the world, there should be some detectable method. It wouldn't be my fucking fault that I don't believe in something that has no detection method possible or something. So my divide matters in the case that like I just want to know something on that side that shows a method towards what it's claiming to be true. Just something, right? I don't like, you can have any issues you have with science, methodology, physicalism, whatever positions. I'll grant that there's certain issues, right? It's fine. The whole idea is updating and gaining knowledge because you're not given it. But my problem, Mark, is that the divide is that I don't see the other side, right? And then when you called in, you said that the consciousness reveals more reliable truths. No, just the mere fact that I have like consciousness or I intuit something doesn't actually adjudicate whether or not the intuition is right or wrong, because we can clearly just show an intuition that's right, that corresponds to reality, and we can show an intuition that doesn't, right? And it's going to be mere happenstance why we went with one intuition over the other, because they're the exact same. So a method that has a check and balances on those intuitions or conscious experience is needed. Otherwise, like, why not just believe the drunk guy at the bar next to you who has conscious experience and tells him things, right? I don't get it.
Look, let me just answer if I can. I have a belief that that I cannot prove, and I cannot give you any evidence for whatsoever, and yet I'm completely certain of it. It is that I am conscious. This is something of which I'm completely certain. I claim that I'm certain of that, and no argument that you put to me will dissuade me of that belief. But there's no proof that I can give you that I'm conscious, because you well know that I could be a dream that you're having, I could be a robot, I could be a zombie. You know that, don't you?
Well, sure, yeah. There's two things important there. One is, so like, if some people will use like the cogito, and those that aren't familiar, that's I think therefore I am, cogito ergo sum. And so some people have an issue on whether or not the I, like in that that kind of first starting point of consciousness, refers to like you, right? And that kind of presupposes that you exist as this thing. So there's two ways to look at this. One, some people use the term incorrigible, right? If I have a belief and if I'm conscious, if I have a belief about being conscious, it's just incorrigible, right? Self-evident. If I tried to write like an argument against it, the second I put my pen to paper, I've already defeated myself. Why? Because it's constitutive that if I'm writing an argument that I'm having some type of experience, which defeats the argument that I'm trying to devise, right? And so the other end is that, can we make an assessment on whether or not the I, like in I think therefore I am, refers to like me in this physical body? Can you make that? Well, any solipsist could come up, right, and present like a matrix scenario, or Descartes could present the whole, you were born 5 minutes ago, from some demon, or made 5 minutes ago from some demon with all your memories intact. Like, you can do that. It's an unfalsifiable claim. So yeah, I can grant that I can't falsify this unfalsifiable proposition that someone puts on me, but that doesn't matter. I'm still having an experience and the seeming, and I'm presented with some form of that, right? Whether it's an onion, right? I call this like the solipsistic onion. If I'm in the middle of experience and the other layer, because onions have layers, if you haven't watched, a certain movie that says so. If the other layer is matrix, and then the other layer is brain in a vat, and then the other layer, right? That's fine. Okay, cool. I will never have access to those layers, but I have access to one of them, and I have a constitutive, incorrigible experience of having a phenomena, and I can use that, and presumably other people that I'm assuming also have minds come in agreement, and I can have a science of medicine that takes someone like my grandmother and has their or their life have a better longevity, right? So I'm not seeing like why any of those things matter, other than just getting in the way of actual progress, given the experience that you do have, right? Because I don't think you're going to deny that you don't have this experience, right?
That's what I was trying to say to you, is that the reality of what I know to be my own conscious experience is something I cannot prove to you at all. It's impossible. Now, if in addition to that, I have this equally certain notion that God exists, then I say to you that equally, I cannot prove that I am conscious, but I know it's true directly. And I cannot prove to you that God exists, but I know He is directly, let's say, then am I being absurd in both cases or only in one case? And why am I more absurd?
No, but this is
showing
this
you
is
don't
where
have
the
justification in both cases.
Yeah, this is where the importance of a shared reality comes into it, because we at the end of the day, I find it difficult to believe that anybody thinks that we don't actually exist. And it's an unfalsifiable claim, which is it's fantastic for mental masturbation, especially if you've had a couple of joints and you sat there with a few mates talking about it. But it's nobody really thinks that, because we all engage in life. We all actually behave as though we do have a shared reality, and that shared reality has a base level. It's a base level we all agree upon, and it's a base level where people don't agree upon. We can see defects within that. So if you're colorblind or if you're short-sighted, like I am, we know the defect that is there. So we know that my individual interpretation, without corrective vision, is not the same as everybody else's normal. So we do something about that. We supply glasses to people. And so we have this shared reality throughout everybody. And then we have additional claims to that, whether that be a God belief or believe in ghosts or believe in alien abductions or whatever that is. We have additional claims to that.
I mean, it works ad infinitum. I mean, the same person that has the conscious intuitive experience that a God is giving that is equally under this idea that they could be under a extremely successful deception of a different God masquerading as the God they think it is, right? I mean, it works on any case that you want. So appealing to direct conscious experience won't matter for the religious. I'm trying to make sure I understand your point. Part of it is that the words have been muffled together a little bit because of the connection. But if you're claiming like consciousness is vital in that aspect, you're basically saying the thing that can determine the truth there is something that can just be subject to pure deception. I don't get that move, because like you're not concerned in that if like something happened horrible in your life, you're not like, oh, well, it's just the case that I'm probably a brain in a vat, so I don't have to worry about any of this. Like no one legitimately uses that as some type of like defense, right? We just were presented with some experience. You have no way to falsify the fact that you couldn't be some other experience. A Christian who thinks that God's revealing itself has no idea that it's actually just aliens revealing, like just messing with a human for some reason. All these claims are equally absurd. I don't get why we'd focus on them, or at least it seems like you're focused on this aspect of consciousness that you're gonna be over a hump you can't never get over, right? If I'm understanding you right.
I don't know. I can't talk more slowly than I do. I apologize for that. I was just giving you a counter-example to what it was that you were saying when you said if a person can't produce evidence to me, if they have nothing to offer other than their word, then it's useless to you. I understand it. I accept it. Of course that's true. But I gave you an example. I can tell you just on my word that I am a conscious being. I'm not a zombie. I'm not a dream you're having. I am real. That is something that I cannot prove. You might be willing to accept it because you experience consciousness of your own, or so you claim. But you missed the first part of what I said. The distinction. One is that there is a conscious experience that you cannot deny. It's incorrigible, right? You cannot deny that you have an experience, because to do so requires the experience, right? You can't do that without it. So that's fine. You could claim that I'm maybe of some other ontological nature. That's fine. We can smoke a bong and go to like a party and talk about it with stoned undergrads, right? We can do that. That's fine. But like a methodology, let's just like grant we can't justify whether or not I'm a brain in a vat. Cool. I'm still experiencing, right? That first distinction I made, I'm still experiencing. And guess what I can do? I can figure out what the hell's going on in my experience, whether it be a simulation or not, doesn't matter. I have methodology to determine what is happening in that experience, to the point where none of us could even show that it's not real, right? So if it works both ways, I'm just going to side with that. I have no choice but to go with my experience and use methods that help me get through this. I mean, I don't know why any of that matters. I could be a simulation, whatever. All the experiences I've had with my family and friends been pretty real and awesome to me. So I don't know why it matters to go outside of any of that. That seems just really like a waste of time to me. I agree. It's what I was trying to say. I was saying, I know that I exist. I know that I have consciousness, but nobody else in the world does, nor can they ever become aware of that fact. They can assume it, they can believe it, but they cannot know that I am.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's just the problem of other minds in philosophy. We just like, yeah, there's things that we can't falsify that idea. Cool, that's fine. I mean, it might work also with AI. How are we going to know that it is conscious if we can't detect it in other minds? That's the philosophical question, but it doesn't prevent us getting results. It doesn't prevent, like I've said 3 times, having a medicine that aids in my grandmother having a better life, right, for the remainder that she has, right? It doesn't get in the way of that. I don't see the practical use in any sense, because what I'm talking about with these methodologies are things that have practical use within that experience. It's not concerning itself with, well, maybe it's just useless, or I'm in a dream, or I'm a turtle's fart. Right.
I tried to give an example, but I don't know what practical value one is required. I don't think that a religion and belief in God is something that exists in order that it has a practical value. I don't think I need to have this practical outcome, therefore I'll go and believe in God. That's not what happens. No. People believe in God for some reason, and their belief in God is manifested in language that you and I hear, and the language that they use to describe the reality of that God says things that are patently absurd. We can see how ridiculous these things are. It is obviously ridiculous. It's obviously wrong. So we go up against that and say, you're saying that there's a guy in a whale and there was a walking on the water and a race. You really believe that stuff? And they say yes. And then we say, well, okay, you're crazy. And away we go. But they don't believe that. They say they believe it because it's a demonstration of their loyalty to say, yes, I believe that Muhammad split the moon in 2. Yes, I believe it. No, they don't. They're saying it as a token, a demonstration of their loyalty to their religion and to their clan and to their group. But
I think we've got to be very careful, Mark, to start dictating what other people believe and what they don't believe.
You're just saying that they're dishonest in what they believe.
I'm not. I know I am. Okay, I understand the interpretation. I'm thinking of examples when I was saying those things, right? People do say that they believe in things, and I'm saying that this is a demonstration of their loyalty. And I am suggesting that an account of this, why people say ridiculous things, why apparently intelligent people say ridiculous things and claim ridiculous things, could be that here's a hypothesis, that they might just be demonstrating their loyalty. Insofar as this is the possibility, I put it forward as a likelihood, given that what these claims are so patently and obviously absurd. So allow me as an atheist to say, I think when I hear religious people make absurd claims, that those claims are patently absurd. And I want to go up against those claims, and I can do that easily, and I can go on and on about it, but that doesn't help heal the rift between the religious and the non-religious, between the believers and the non-believers. What is wrong with the world, or what is wrong with the division between these two camps, cannot be contained in the interpretation of the words they use to describe what they believe to be true.
Sorry, Richard.
Go on, Mike.
Oh no. Well, yeah, part of it's one thing that I'll have to say up front that's been a little tough is that part of the audio, it sounds like it's on my end kind of fizzing together, so it seems that I'm missing some things, and when you go a long period of time, could you just lay out to me before we move on to callers specifically what your view is as quickly as you can, because I feel like I'm just going to respond to something that I'm not hearing correctly.
Yes, I want to go too. I think I've taken up far too much time. I was wanting to say that atheists are drawn to theists when theists make absurd claims. We immediately want to start debunking those absurd claims. I'm saying that this is an exercise that is away from my ideal. My ideal is that we find out why people are making those claims, and I think they are motivated by something other than their understanding of the meanings of the words and the meanings of those claims. I think those
I don't know. It's just not my interest to talk about what I think the motivation of other people are in that case. Like, I'm going to take their word that they really believe it to be true, and then just ask them if, like, how they determine truth, what methodology it is, right? And if they can't give me something, I'm convinced, one, that they don't take believe seriously in knowing things to be true. And two, I'm not convinced that they could go to any other person that has similar standards like myself and convince them. I don't think it's a me problem, right? I think it's a them problem. I think it's the fact that they haven't actually given standards, but I'm not going to say that they're being dishonest or even to say that all an atheist wants to do is jump and show them what's wrong. There's atheists out there that just want to go, I just genuinely want to know why you think it's true, right? Every time I ask this question, I never get a good answer, right? So I don't know that I agree with you there.
I really enjoyed doing this. I wish I could do it again. I had more time. It's been fantastic. I've never done it before. Thank you very much for your time, guys.
Yeah, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. Cheers. Thank you.